Hello students, welcome to IAS with Arihant, and I am your mentor Indrjeet Jaiswal, and from today only we are going to start a very beautiful series, that is Prelims Possible with the IAS with Arihant. Okay, so in this series we are going to discuss a very beautiful book that is designed and developed by Arihant, and this book is basically called as Indian Polity, and it is a complete series, and here we are going to discuss each and every topic in a very detailed format. Okay, so once again I will say one thing, just subscribe the channel as well as share this video with your friends also, and we are going to start this series in a very significant way, as well as I will show what is the feature of the book and how we are going to start with the same. Okay, so once again I will welcome you all, and so let's start the session. Let's begin the session. Student, if you see, this book is basically called as Prelims Possible series, and in this book, students, we are going to discuss, let me show you the book first. If you see, this is the book, okay, and it is very beautiful, and in the beautiful context, what I want to say here, you will get the very detailed information about the polity as well as the other subject also, but this book is totally dedicated for polity, and it is available in every store of the where the competitive examinations books are sell. Okay, so what are the feature of this book? If you see here, students, you'll get the chapter wise as well as topic wise division in this book. Okay, and in this series also we are going to discuss the things in a very systematic format, and that will be chapter wise as well as topic wise. Okay, as well as there's a topical mind map, so it will make you clear how to go with the MCQs as well as how to build up the concept, students, and it is 100% error free. Okay, so there's a very beautiful explanation from very basic to very advanced. You guys can go for the same, and knowledge plus typical question will be there, and 3500 plus MCQs will be there, and that is totally based on the previous year question paper. It is from the UPSC, CSC, IAS as well as the state PSC students. One very important thing, in the last of this book you will get a very it is a very concise, and let me show you first. It is very concise information here. You will get the point as well as the bullet wise information. Okay, and this topic is basically called as prelims PYQ bullets. So this is good for your revision purpose, so you must go for the same. It will be good for you. Just get the book, so this will give you idea. Okay, because books are needed, and one very important thing, good books are needed for the success. Okay, so if you're going to participate in any state PSC examination, UPSC examination, if you want to understand how to succeed, then it is very important you must watch this session, as well as there's other sessions also on the same channel. So just go with it, as well as have book also. Okay, so this will give you the complete idea and 360 degree the resolution for your career. Okay, so from here we are going to start, and the today's topic, as one more thing I like to mention from the same book, students, as I told you, this book is divided in chapters, and then there will be some topic. If you see, students, means you have to take this book to understand the clarity. There will be 33 there's a 30 chapters including the miscellaneous, and these chapters are divided into topics. Okay, and today's topic is basically we already written here, the constitutional development of India. Okay, under that, student, there will be two important topics. Okay, so the development of constitution and some acts that was taken place in the British's time. Okay, because historical background is very important. Okay, yes, so here we are going to start with the chapter that is constitutional development of India, and this session will be in English. Okay, so this will be beneficial for all students, those who are not able to understand Hindi students. Okay, so as you know, once we start, we trying to know how this constitution came into existence. So the topic name, the chapter name is basically historical background of Indian constitution, means we want to know how this constitution came into existence. Okay, so this is not one day process, students, and our constitution makers not meet for one day and they just made, okay, let's make a constitution. No, there's a very long background where this is very long history, and after these processes this constitution was created. So let me show how this historical background of or the constitutional development in India was started. As you know, we are the British possession, the British controlled us. Okay, so European company came to India for the trade purpose. In the same student, there was a British East India Company. It was created in Britain, London, 1600 AD, and the date was 31st of December. And student, from here the beginning of British East India Company was started, and they got a right, and that right was monopoly. What is monopoly? So British East India Company got a right, means only the British India Company will come to India and they will trade here. No other country, means though no other company from the Britain will do trade in India. So they got a monopoly, and that monopoly was given by there was a charter also. The queen was Elizabeth. So Elizabeth I was here, and she given a monopoly for the British East India Company to do trade in India. One very important thing, students, so British East India Company was created and they came to India in 1608, and there was a person named as Captain William Hawkins. Okay, so Captain William Hawkins visited India, and at that time he visited the Mughal court, and this Mughal court was it was headed by the Mughal Badshah named as Jahangir. And student, after meeting with the Jahangir, he want to get the right from the order from the Mughal Badshah Jahangir, and after that, students, he given the limited right, and after that when Thomas Roe will come, they will get the more right, and in 1613 they establishes their first fully owned factory. Okay, factory is basically a place where goods is going to be stored. Okay, so first factory, it is the first factory that was established in Surat. Student, initially the British East India Company, it was totally doing trade in India, means they are totally doing the trade in India. They don't have any political control, but there was two very important event that took place in India. One is 1757, that is called as Battle of Plassey. In the Battle of Plassey, students, you will see they defeated the Nawab of Bengal. Okay, and after that they controlled the Bengal territory by putting a puppet Nawab there. Okay, and after that, students, there is another event that was basically called as the key event for the British establishment or British political power establishment in India, and that was 1764, that is called as Battle of Buxar. Now there's a question, why I am discussing these things. So as we already said, we are going to start Indian polity and their constitutional development in India from the very basic and beginning. So in 1764, the Battle of Buxar was conducted, and what you find, the students, in the Battle of Buxar, the Mughal Badshah was also defeated in this battle. And once the Mughal Badshah was also defeated, Awadh Nawab, Mughal Badshah, along with that the Bengal Nawab, they create a combined forces and they meet in Buxar with the British forces, and Britishers defeated these three very huge forces that contain approximately 50,000 army personals. And after that, student, what you find here, Britishers realize their power. The British East India Company realizes their power, and what you find, students, here in 1765 there will be a treaty, and that treaty will be called as Allahabad treaty, students. And what you see, Allahabad, now it is called as Prayagraj. So in Allahabad treaty, now they are going to control the Mughal Badshah. They are going to get right from the Mughal Badshah. And in 1765 only, they got the control over Bengal. Now I'll say, sir, how they got the control over Bengal? In Bengal, they got the Diwani right. Now what is Diwani right here? Basically, they got right to collect a revenue. So revenue collection right they got. And students, automatically there was a two type of administrative system will start in Bengal, and that's what is called as dual government system. Under the dual government system, students, there will be two type of work. One is basically called as administration. Okay, that was given to Nawab, and other is basically is Diwani right, that is basically revenue collection, that came under the control of British students. And from 1765 to 1772, here what you see, the dual government system was introduced in Bengal. And what you see here, student, here only they are going to exploit Indians after collecting very high taxes, and along with that they are creating problem for the farmers because of the high tax, including there was basically the servants of the company, they started taking bribes. Okay, they started doing corruption. So, and they also in the Bengal in 1770 there was a very huge famine, and that led low tax collection in Bengal, and here the British East India Company reached to bankruptcy. So for that purpose, students, they reached to the British Crown and the British Parliament, and they asked for loan. Now the British Parliament, once the British East India Company asked for loan, now the British Parliament, they found that they are trying to exploit Indian, as well as the company regulation is also not going well. So from here, students, in 1773, to control the company affair in India, the British Parliament introduced an act that is called as a Regulating Act. And student, this Regulating Act was the first law that was introduced by the British Parliament in India. And what you see, students, under the British East India, they are going to create the territory, the British territory, and there will be the possession. And student, what you see is up to the 1857, up to the revolt of 1857, there was company who is ruling over India. Okay, and after the 1857 to 15th of August 1947, students, okay, in 1857 when there was a revolt, there is a change. What change was taken place? The company rule was ended, and in 1858 a new act was introduced, and this is called as Crown Act. And since 1858 1st of November, students, up to 1947, we all, means basically the Indians, under the control of British Crown. And now this is the historical background, and we need to understand, once we adopted our constitution on, means it is 26th of November 1949, it is the adoption of the Indian Constitution. And if you see 26th of January 1950, students, the constitution was fully implemented. So these two dates are very, very important. So we adopted our constitution, but our constitutional framework was started from this act only, as the Britishers rule over India. So we just take so many points, as well as we need to see how this constitutional development was started. I hope you all able to understand. Hello everyone. Okay, so we are going to discuss some important fact and data, and this is under the book, students. I just added this book data here, and once you go with the book, you'll find a very, very beautiful explanation here. So let me show you the data, and this is the first chapter of the class, and from here we are going to start. And this is very, very important, students. You need to give your feedbacks also. Your feedbacks are necessary for our classes. Okay, so as I told you, student, for the first time the British is going to introduce a regulating act in India to control the company affair. Okay, so we will do MCQs also, but first we'll discuss about the explanation. I hope you all able to understand. Student, one more important data I like to add here. If you see, I'm just using a map here to explain this. This was the British territory at that time. This was the map of India, and I'm just trying to use the present map to make it clear how it was there. Okay, so this is the map of India. And as you know, Britishers initially came to the Bengal region, Bombay region. So they establishes their factory in the Surat. Okay. After that, they shifted to the Madras region. Okay. And Bengal region. Student Job Charnook was here, who establishes a fort also. And we are going to discuss these things also. So initially, these were the British territory. These were the British area where they are doing trade. So there was 3 important presidencies that was created by the Britishes, and there was a head that is called as governor. Okay, so this is called as Presidency of Bombay. This is Madras, and this is Bengal. Initially, these 3 territory was totally independent. Totally independent means they are doing trade in their territory, and they are responsible for their council and their works. Okay, but as you find the students key, once they control over the Bengal, now one thing is going to change. Once they got the supremacy in Bengal, so automatically these 2 territory region, one is Bombay and other is Madras, they will function as a subordinate to basically the Bengal governor. So what you find, students, here initially all were considered as the governor, and if everyone is governor, then everyone's rank is going to be equal. So here there will be a modification. The governor of Bengal is going to be known as Governor General of Bengal. Student, this is very, very important to understand when this modification took place, as well as their power is going to increase, their work is going to increase. Okay, so here it is very important. Initially it was called as basically Governor of Bengal. Now it came to known as Governor General of Bengal by the Act of 1773. And there is few more important data that you need to know. Let me show you a very beautiful chart that will be helpful for your all examination. Student, as we know, there is some modification that took place initially. There is a governor position. Okay, so Governor of Bengal, Governor of Bombay, Governor of Madras. The Governor of Bengal position change as Governor General of Bengal. And what you find, students, the Governor of Bengal position came to known as Governor General of Bengal by the Act of Regulating Act, and that was introduced in 1773. One very, very important thing is, students, when the position is going to change, so there will be a person who will be initially called as Governor of Bengal, and after implementation of this act, after the updation of the post, this person is going to be the first person. So here the first person was, I'm just writing the short code here because I will give you the complete explanation from the same book. Okay, so he came to means he was the Warren Hastings, and he will be the last Governor of Bengal, and he will be the first Governor General of Bengal, students. Okay, There will be once again updation I am going to discuss today only in the same post when there is a Charter Act 1833 is going to be introduced. So now here what you see, students, initially he is responsible towards the limited territory, but after the introduction of Charter Act 1833 there will be modification in the post, and that person will came to known as Governor General of India. So Governor General of India, once again there will be a first person, means there will be last person who is going to be the last Governor General of Bengal and first Governor General of India, and he was the William Bentinck, students. Okay. There will be once again modification after the revolt of 1857. There will be more control over the Indian territory by the British Crown, and here the development of Viceroy post. After the Crown Act 1858. And students, here the last Governor General of India was Canning, and the first Viceroy and Governor General of India was Canning. Okay. So there will be once again modification. Once India is going to independence, this post is going to be once again dissolved. So we will discuss these all things in the coming classes, but we are going to more concerned towards the data here. Okay, so I'm just going to explain how the things is going to be developed, how the things is going to be modified, and how Britishers basically participated in India for the development of the constitution. We made our constitution, but the development was started very in the beginning of the this 18th century. Okay, so if you see, students, regulating act was here, and as I told you, students, there is a modification in the post. Initially there was a post named as Governor General, and now this post came to known as Governor General of Bengal. Okay, sorry, initially it was Governor of Bengal, later came to known as Governor General of Bengal. As I already told you, there was a company employee. They are trying to exploit India. They are doing corruption to control these things, as well as to make a supervision. So there must be a legal office where if someone going to be exploited, they must reach to there for their fast redressal. So under this act, a Supreme Court was created in India, and it was established at Calcutta. Supreme Court of Calcutta in 1774. Initially students will see here there is a 4 judges. In 4 judges, one will be the CJ chief judge and 3 other judges, or he is also called as puissant judges. Okay, so this is important. 3 other judge and 1 chief justice. Sometime in your examination there is also a question ki who was the first chief judge of Supreme Court of Calcutta. So he was Eliza Impey. So I'm just trying to give you name, so you guys must remember this. And as already told you, students, under the Regulating Act, the Governor General of Bengal is going to control the 3 important territory. 2 governor will work under the basically this Governor General of Bengal, and these territory are, or these presidencies are, Bombay and Madras, students, and he was the the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, as you find, students, ki there was flaws, there is some confusion always once you are going to create any rule and regulation. So they made a modification, because there was Supreme Court, they are trying to control the British officers also. So there is an modification, and this modification is basically called as Act of Settlement 1981. Okay, so there is a they limited the relation between the Governor General Council and Supreme Court. So initially, students, what you see under this Regulating Act 1773, there was Governor General of Bengal, including in the Council of Governor General of Bengal, 4 members was added, and here these 4 members is going to take the decision. And this is also flaw. Why? Because there is a 4 member, and Governor General of Bengal only he has caster vote. So when there is a tie, then he has right to vote. So here power was also limited. This is also going to be addressed in 1780 for students. I hope you all able to understand. Okay, so see, so in 1781 they means in this act they made a provision ki means there will be no investigation of the company officials, as initially it was made to control the corruption, but here this modification was took place. I hope you all able to understand. And another very important modification, students, that was takes place in 1784 under the Pitt's India Act. Okay, so what you see here, for the first time they're going to introduce a term. As you see, in 1774 they introduce a law in India to regulate the company affair, and as you see the Britishers are going to control the territory, and here students, for the first time the territory which is controlled by company, they mention a term named as company possession. Okay, here initially in this company there was a group of directors that is called as board of directors, and there was 24 member students, and they are elected for 1 to 4 years. Okay, and there will be 1/4 retirement after every 1 year. Okay, so that is one thing that was under the Regulating Act, and that was initially functioning. Okay, initially the board of director their work was basically to regulate the company affair, along with that students, they have certain power also. They are just taking the data and they're presenting in the Britain. But to show here one thing, the British position, they're going to create one more board, and that will be called as Board of Control. Now the Board of Control will contain 6 members, and students, one very important thing, they are appointed by king or the monarch, and they are responsible towards the king or monarch, students. So what you see, board of director is already working. Okay, and one more officer is created, that is Board of Control. And now from here only the company is going to show 2 things. The administrative as well as the company affair will be taken care by the board of director, and the basically administration in the British territory, in the British position, it is directly means it is going to be under the control of Board of Control. So this was one thing, student. Here this is not diarchy. Okay, here you can use the better term, that is, here if you see the 2 offices, so you can say dual government was started here. Dual government, one is board of director and one is board of control. I hope it is okay, easy everyone. So this is one thing, and they ask directly question from the same. After the Pitt's India Act, student, to create more control over the company as well as in the Indian territory, they are going to introduce some acts, and that acts is basically considered as the Charter Act. So this total 4 Charter Act was introduced, 4 in number. I'm just writing here 4 CA Charter Act, and it was introduced after every 20 years. Okay, and there was some provision. Okay, so what you see in 1773, in 1773 they introduced the Regulating Act, and after that in 1793, so they introduced a Charter Act, and here the Governor General authority is going to be increased, means the Bombay and Madras provinces governor will directly came under the control of the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, and after the 20-year once again they introduce a Charter Act 1830. And what is important here, students, the 2 very important thing, 2 important decision was taken, takes place at that time. They are going to end the monopoly. As I told you initially, there was a British East India Company. They has a sole right, they can do trade in India. Yes or no? We already discussed about the same. In 1813, they ended the monopoly of the company trade. Now more company from the Britain can come to India and can do trade. Okay, so they ended the monopoly of the company, but students, there was some limitations, there was some exceptions that was not ended, and these exception was trade in tea is only limited to British East India Company as well as opium, and to trade with China, these two were the exception. Otherwise, other things was monopoly was ended. And here students, as Britishers want to show more responsibility in India, so to basically to introduce the good quality of Western education in India, they allowed Christian missionaries to promote Christianity as well as education in India. Now, for that purpose, to promote the Western education, okay, in the Western education, basically science, basically this English language, art and tech, okay, so they basically trying to improve in India, and for that purpose, students, you will see there will be 1 lakh rupee allocation was made compulsory for the British East India Company for every year. This is very important question, and this question was asked by many examination. Okay, and after that, students, once again there will be a modification just after 20 years, and that will be Charter Act 1833. And here this is also called as St. Helena Act. And here initially, students, if you see, in 1784 they introduce a term that is British possession. In 1833 they are going to introduce a term, okay, there will be more centralization in India. Now you will say, sir, how more centralization will be in India? So you can find here there is a post named as Governor General of India. What? Governor General of India. So if there is a post that is take care for the complete India, it means that they are trying to make a unique post, and that is they are trying to create a central administration system. I hope you are all able to understand, students. So this is one thing. So in the 1833 Charter Act, they modified the post Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India. And under this, students, what you find? There was a person named as William Bentinck, and he will be the first Governor General of India. Okay, they declared basically this slavery illegal, and one budget for the entire country they introduced here. And few more thing was taken place, students. I'm just going to add here. Under they add a law member in the Governor General of India's Council, students. So Macaulay was a person who was the part of the same. Okay, and just after 20 years, they are going to increase, means they are going to introduce once again a new charter, that was 1853. See, in 1833 here only they are trying to give open examination right to Indians, but that was negated, means that was ended. But in 1853 they are going to give the right to participate in examination, that is civil services examination, imperial civil services, and Indian can also participate here. And as we already know, in 1863 there was a person named as Satyendranath Tagore. He was the first person, he was the first Indian who cleared the civil services examination. Okay, and in 1853, students, as they separated the Governor General Legislative Council, as well as there is an expansion of the legislature. So this is an outline of this session, and now, students, we are going to do MCQ on the same, and these all MCQs as well as their explanation is mentioned under this book, students. So I recommend you one thing: if you following the classes, as well as if you are preparing for any state PSC examination or any central services examination, that is IAS, IPS, so there is a one exam CSE, so you must get this book, okay, and go with the classes, as well as the book is going to be very, very fruitful for you for your success path. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the first question. As you see, students, here, in which of the following act for the first time provision was made for the post of Governor General of Bengal? So under which of the following act, students? If you know the important point of these acts, then definitely there will be a plus point or an examination. Okay, so just opt the right answer and we are going to discuss the same. So as you know, students, Regulating Act was introduced in 1773 and under this many provision was added. Okay, so there's a Pitt's India Act, that was updation of the Regulating Act. Charter Act 1813 was there and Charter Act 1833 was there. So just give your answer in the comment box. If you're watching this session in the recorded format, definitely answer in the comment box. Okay, so this question was initially asked in the UPPSC pre-paper, and if you see, students, the post of Governor of Bengal is came to known as Governor General of Bengal by the Regulating Act 1773. So we are going to see how we explained in this book. Okay, so if you see, student, for the first time provision for the post of Governor General of Bengal is mentioned under Regulating Act 1773. We already aware about the same. And students, this act was passed by the British Parliament, and I told you already, this is for the first time the British Parliament made a direct law or act in India for the regulation of company affair, to regulate the affair of the East India Company in India. And students, as we already discussed, it is a first parliamentary ratification and authorization that define the power and authority of East India Company with respect to the Indian possession. But at that time, initially, there was no word used as Indian possession. It was later used. But as we already know, so we are going to, we are trying to include the same. Okay, and students, we already discussed the first governor of Bengal was Warren Hastings. Okay, and he is the last governor of Bengal and first Governor General of Bengal, and who served from 1774 to 1785. Okay, and once again, this post, that is Governor General of Bengal, converted or modified as Governor General of India by Charter Act 1833. So this is our explanation of this question. I hope you like it. Now we are moving towards the other question. I hope, and students, your feedbacks are very, very important. Just put your like button, just put your share button to the video. Okay, I hope you all okay. Now students, just see the another data here, another question here. With reference to the establishment of Supreme Court, which of the following statement is correct? Now, as you know, for the first time Supreme Court of Calcutta was created by an act, and this question was asked by many examinations like UPPCS, ROA, Pre. So what you see here, a Supreme Court of or Supreme Court at Calcutta. Okay, it was established by Regulating Act 1773 in 1774. So now you know, yes, it is correct. Now there's another data here. So Leicester was the first chief judge of this court. Now you all know in the Supreme Court of Calcutta, under the Regulating Act, there was a provision for 4 judges. Out of these 4 judges, if you see, 1 chief judge and 3 other judges, students. Okay, so we already know who is the first CJ of Supreme Court at Calcutta. So here we are going to discuss, means there's option, multiple option is there. Option A says that only 1 is correct. Option B says that only 2 is correct. Option C says that option A and B, means 1 and 2 both is correct. And option D says that neither 1 nor 2. So this is a very beautiful question. Okay, so you already know the first CJ of Supreme Court of Calcutta was Elijah MP. And this is a very favorite question for the state PSC students for all over India. as well as other examination also. So Eliza MP was the right answer. So automatically option 2 is going to be incorrect. So what you find, students, only option 1 will be correct. It is very, very clear. So now we are going to see the explanation that is mentioned under the book. So statement 1 says that Supreme Court of Calcutta at Fort William, it is also called as Calcutta, was established by Regulating Act 1773 and 1774. And student, it was the British India's highest court. Once there is a High Court Act was introduced, and in 1862 the High Court of Calcutta was created, and other places also High Court was created. Till the time it was the Supreme High Court in India, Supreme Court in India, students, for the British possession. Okay, and we already discussed here that there was 4 judges, 1 Chief Justice, and other regular judge, or he is also called as puisne judge. Okay, and student, what you see, I already told you, Eliza MP was the first CJ of the Supreme Court of Calcutta. I hope you all able to connect it. Now we are moving towards the another question, and this is another very, very important question for the examination. Under which act Board of Control was established, students? We already discussed there is a Board of Directors. And what about the Board of Directors, students? So Board of Director, they are basically regulating the company affair. Initially they are regulating the company affair as well as administration also. But when the Board of Control was created, now the provision is going to be modified. Okay, so basically the Board of Directors is going to symbolize the company, and they will control the commercial function of the company. And when the Board of Control was created, students, as I already told you, there was 6 members, and this 6th member is appointed by Crown. So they are appointed by Crown, and students, they are responsible for what? They are responsible for administration. So they are doing administrative function in India, as well as they responsible towards the Crown. So this is very important. They basically, this Board of Control was established by the Crown, and they are responsible towards the Crown. And one important thing, students, they are especially made for the administrative function. And here the function of both offices is going to be clear. Board of Director will conduct the commercial function, and Board of Control will conduct the administrative function here. So there was a modification, and this modification or this work takes place under the 1784 Pitt's India Act, students. Okay, so option D is going to be correct, and I hope everyone is trying to give answer. If you're not, and then whenever, means if you're not in live session, definitely once you watch the recorded session, you must give your answer in the comment box. I hope you all able to understand, students. Easy. Now, so under the Pitt's India Act 1784, so see, this explanation is very, very important. Why? Because you read the concept. Once you come to the MCQ session or MCQ, then you'll find that for the point of means to learn the things, the revision are important. So once you do MCQs, sometimes just opting the MCQs and just you left the question. No, once you read the this explanation, you'll find what you want to gain from this, that is revision. It is going to be automatically conducted with the same question. Okay, so here in 1784, it is simply called as Pitt's India Act. In some state PSC, they are simply asking to just arrange the acts that was introduced by the Britishes in India according to the year. So here you also getting it is 1784. So year is also there. Okay, Board of Control, and you know ki basically they are going to do what? They are going to create a administrative power. Okay, so business is going to take care by Board of Director, and administrative function is going to be controlled by Board of Control, and it was formed in Britain. And students, they are going to responsible towards the crown. Okay, I hope you got it. So the board of control was empowered to approve or disapprove the names, orders and direction of government of India students. So they have a very large or huge power, simply you can say. I hope you all able to understand. Now we're moving towards the another question. By which of the following act did the British East India Company trading monopoly in India was ended? So by which act the trading monopoly? I told you already, in 1600 the British East India Company got right to do trade in India, and initially it was only for 15 years, but it was extended. Okay, and up to this year they are doing freely trade in India. No other British company was allowed to do trade in India, but by this act they are going to end this monopoly. Means now other company can do trade in India from the Britain, and but there was some limitation. I already told you, after this act the monopoly was ended, but there is exception. And what was the exception, students? This was tea and trade with China. These are the two exceptions that was given to British East India Company. I hope you all able to understand, students. So by which act? It is Charter Act 1793, it is Charter Act 1833, it is Charter Act 1813, it is Charter Act 1853. So every charter has a specific basically regulation, a specific data. So there was Charter Act 1813 when the monopoly of British East India Company was ended. So I just added here, by the Charter Act 1813 the British East India Company commercial monopoly in India was abolished. Now the company monopoly to do trade with China as well as trade in India was kept intact. Okay, so it is very simple. You are getting the information. Your revision is already going with the same question. East India Company was established in 1600 and there was a commercial monopoly that was approved by the charter of Queen Elizabeth. We already discussed. Sometimes they're asking name. Okay, and only objective of the company was to make money from Indian business. After the Charter Act 1813, students, the Parliament allowed other company to do trade in India for next 20 years. I hope you all able to understand. So this is very, very important. Okay, now which act made a compulsion that every yearly 1 lakh rupees was allotted for the education of Indian students? So see, this education is important. Why? Because they want to show some social work. Okay, so this is a type of social work they want to show. Okay, and this was the question in the WBCS West Bengal examination. So see, under this provision, students, they want to introduce the Western education in India in the term of science, art and culture promotion as well as literature. Okay, what you see, it was introduced by the Charter Renewal Act 1813. Okay, so Charter Renewal Act, when the company monopoly was ended, at the same time, students, this 1 lakh rupees was allocated for the British India possession, where they are going to do some social work. Okay, so I just added here. So the Charter Renewal Act 1813, the British government allotted yearly 1 lakh rupee for the education of Indians. Their purpose was to support Indian literature and the advancement of science, as well as greater responsibility for the cooperation in the education of Indians under their control. This was the first time the British focused on education of the Indians, as well as the crown jurisdiction over British colony in India was asserted by this act. Okay, so I hope you all able to connect it. The things are easy. Very good. You are doing well. Okay, now we are moving towards the next question that was asked in the UPPCS as well as UPSC as well as UKPSC. So consider the following statement about the Charter Act 1813. Okay, so if you see the Charter Act 1813, now there are few more options. It ended the trade monopoly of East India Company in India except for trade in tea and trade with China. This is one option. Okay. Another, it asserted the sovereignty of British Crown over Indian territory held by the company. Okay. And the revenue of India were not controlled by the British Parliament. Now, what will be the right answer for this? So they made a combination here. Option A says that 1 and 2 only. Option B says that 2 and 3. Option C 1 and 3. And option D 1, 2 and 3 students. What will be a right answer for the same? Okay. So you have to choose the right answer, students. Okay. We already discussed about the same. And here what you see in the third option, the revenue of India were not controlled by the British Parliament. Under this provision, they basically are trying to means they are controlling the Indian revenue. Okay, so if anywhere where option 3 is mentioned, that option is going to be incorrect, because we already discussed कि trade monopoly with East India Company except tea, opium and trade with China, other monopoly was ended. Okay, so option means where the option 1 is added, that will be correct. As well as by introducing this, by controlling the Indian company activity, they are trying to show that they are more supreme in India. Okay, so British Crown trying to show, so automatically option 2 is also going to be correct. And see, they are collecting the revenue. Okay, so if not is you're going to remove not, then automatically all is going to be correct. But here not, they added a word not. So you need to understand they are controlling the Indian revenue. So option 3 is not going to be correct. So automatically option A, which contain 1 and 2, it is going to be correct. I hope you all able to understand. Hello everyone. Easy. So I just added the basically explanation also here. It is mentioned under this book in a very beautiful format. You must go with the books. Okay, statement 1 and 2 are correct about the Charter Act 1813, as it ended the trade monopoly of the East India Company on trade matter except trade with China and trade in tea and opium. Okay, so opium in Hindi it is called as afim. So these two are very, very important, students. Sometime in your examination they are asking. Okay, as you see already. Okay, the act asserted the sovereignty of British Crown over the territory of East India Company by imposing restriction of the British East. As you know, British East India Company was ruling. They are creating law, they are managing law. But let's suppose someone going to control the British East India Company, it means that they are more powerful and they ended monopoly. So once the monopoly was ended, now other company also can come to India from the Britain. So automatically who is going to be more supreme? The British Crown. So here by imposing this restriction, they prove that they are sovereign. Okay, so this is very important. Option 3 is going to be, means statement 3 is going to be incorrect, because revenue of India was controlled by the British Parliament through the Pitt's India Act 1784. So here if you see, they use a word that is not. So whenever you read statements, you read very clearly what this statement means. Okay, I hope you all able to connect it. Now we are moving towards the 7th question, and you'll see how beautifully this book is arranged. First they given the important data. Once you read the data and then you move for your MCQs. Once you solve the MCQs, then you'll get the explanation for each and every question and their options also. Okay, so the question is, who among the following laid the foundation of English education in India? Now, English education in India was introduced by? It is Charter Act 1813. It is General Committee of Public Instruction 1823. Okay, as well as Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So students, if you don't know about the Orientalist and Anglicist controversy, let me tell you one thing. Basically, these are the nature of education. Orientalists are those who are believing that we must focus on this territory from where we grown, like Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian. Anglicists are saying that we need to focus on the English education. So now just opt the right answer for the same, students. What will be right answer for the same? And the things are very, very easy if you go in a simple and easy format. Okay, so English education in India, if there's a Anglicist controversy, means they are trying to promote English in India. So what you find, students, Charter Act 1813, this is making compulsory, as already discussed, 1 lakh rupees per annum for the promotion of English education. There was a General Committee for Public Instruction in 1823, they also recommended, and there is a controversy also, as well as English education was introduced in India. So I just added here, means this book added here, the foundation of English education in India, that was founded by the Charter Act 1813. After that, there is a General Committee of Public Instruction 1823, as well as Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So we are going to discuss one by one all. English East India Company discouraged the prevailing system of Oriental education, that was means Sanskrit, Persian and all. They are trying to introduce the Western education and they want to promote it. So in 1813, okay, under the Charter Act, they made a provision. They are going to spend 1 lakh rupees per annum for the spread of English education in India. So automatically, as you see, option 1 is going to be correct. Option means statement 2 is here. It is also going to be correct. So General Committee on Public Instruction was created in 1823, and it is responsibility, means basically the responsibility to promote the English education was given. Okay, and they made a grant for 1 lakh rupees per annum. And then we already discussed about the Orientalist students, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. It was basically Orientalist. They are more focusing, they are more inclined towards the form of education that was followed in country, in Arabic, in Persian, in Sanskrit. And this was led by H.H. Wilson and H.T. Prinsep. Okay, Prinsep. And they are advocating for Sanskrit, Arabic and Persian. On the other hand, Anglicist, that was led by Charles Trevelyan, and they are promoting the English education, students. They are mentioning that we must introduce the English education in India. I hope you are able to connect it. So these are the beautiful things that is mentioned under the book. Now we are moving towards another question here. Now, which act for the first time made it possible for Indians to take some share in the administration of their country? Okay, for the first time it made possible to Indian to take some share in the in the administration of the country, students. The Charter Act 1833, 1861, 1853 or Government of India Act 1858, students. So we need to discuss about the 1858. Okay, we will discuss about the same, but here you have to tell me what is the right answer for the same. Okay, see, you need to understand, by the Charter Act 1833, they are trying to recruit Indians in basically general administration. Okay, but what you find, students, for the civil services they allowed open examination in 1853, so that is different. Okay, so if you see explanation here, the Charter Act 1833 became the first act that made a provision to freely admit the natives of India to share an administration in the country, students. And this act gave power to the court of director to nominate annually 4 times as many as candidate as there were vacancy through the process of competitive examination. So there was a competitive examination introduced in 1833, but it was negated only in limited sense only. Okay, so you have to understand this also. Now, which act provision competitive exam system for the civil services, that is BPSC pre 2023. This question was asked in this year as well in the other examination also. So 1833, 1853, 1858 or 1882. So open competitive examination for civil services. Here you need to understand this was 1853 when the open competition was started. But initially this was very limited in nature. Let's suppose you're going to participate in examination, you have to go for London, and then in London you have to give examination. So they are trying to control the Indian as much as possible. Okay, so the Charter Act 1853, explanation is very important, introduced an open competitive examination for selection and recruitment of civil servant. This act was basically this act dissolved the company's patronage over the service students. So means Indian also started taking part in the administration of India. Okay, now these are the very complex and beautiful question, and here we can use some technique also to solve this question, that is resection, as well as to find out the right match. Okay, so this question is from UPPSC. Okay, and it is a type of revision question also. Okay, here the list 1 and you have to match with the list 2. Okay, so we'll go in a very systematic format. The establishment of board of control, and we already discussed board of control is basically created by the British Crown. There was 6 members, and what is the function of board of control? They are doing administrative function in Indian territory. Establishment of Supreme Court, permission to English missionary to work in India, and the fourth is the appointment of law member in Governor General Council, and first one's the Macaulay. Okay, just opt the right answer. Now you have list 2, and now we are going to match this. So there's the Regulating Act 1773, Pitt's India Act, Charter Act, and Charter Act 1813 and 1830. So board of control was created by, simple, don't get confused, you have to opt very systematic answer. If you see students, so board of control, it was made by the Pitt's India Act. Now if you see the option, so A1, it is not going to be correct, it is also not going to be correct. Here you'll find there are 2 options, B and D, where A is, means basically for list 1, A2. Okay, so you can find out here. After that, establishment of Supreme Court at Calcutta, it was introduced by Regulating Act, and it was introduced in 1774. Now option B is here, this is going to be correct, B1. So without moving further, but yes, we are doing the question, you need to understand, we can find out the right answer. Okay, but here the permission to English missionaries to work in India, as we already discussed, it is made by the Charter Act, okay, 1813, and students, what is important here, 1 lakh rupees per annum, and then students in 1835 the law member was also added by Charter Act 1833 here. So option B is going to be correct, and C explanation here. So the correct match we already discussed. The Regulating Act of 1773 authorized the British Crown to establish a Supreme Court at Calcutta by the Charter Act, or by issuing a charter, or by issuing a Regulating Act of by Regulating Act 1773 they introduced a Supreme Court. Okay, then Pitt's India Act 1784, Court of Director to manage the commercial affair, and they created a new office, that is Board of Control. Okay, so Court of Director, Board of Control to manage the political affair. Okay, the Charter Act 1830, it allocated 1 lakh rupees for education in India and permitted Christian missionaries to come in India and to preach the religion as well as to promote the English education. Charter Act 1813, there was a law member is going to be the part of the Governor General of India Council, and first one was the Macaulay. Okay, now we have the 11th question. I hope you all able to connect it. Okay, so once again match list 1 with the match list 2 and select the correct answer from the quotes given below. Okay, so this question was belonging to Tamil Nadu PCS. Pitt's India Act 1784. So here in the list 1 they added some acts, like I'm just going to read it. Charter Act 1813, Charter Act 1833, Indian Council Act 1861. Now list 2 says that decentralization of legislative power of Governor General. Okay, now second option in list 2 is Governor General government was known as Governor General of India for the first time. Now you know when the Governor General of India post was created, okay, the Board of Control with 6-member appointment and deprivation of East India Company monopoly for the trade. Now we are moving towards this data very easily. As you know students, the Governor General of Bengal came to known as Governor General of India by Charter Act 1833. We already discussed about the same. Okay, if you see students here, the appointment of Board of Control, and there was 6-member, it is by the Pitt's India Act. Okay, and if you see here, deprivation of East India Company monopoly to do trade in India except trade with China and trade in tea and opium, it was option B. Okay, so here means C. And last one is the Indian Council Act 1861, that is going to decentralize the power of Governor General. Okay, so if you match this, if you are going to follow this, automatically for A you need to go for the 3, and by choosing one right answer you can get the right answer students. So automatically this B is going to be correct. Okay, Charter Act 1813, deprivation of East India Company, so B4, C2 and D1. Now let's see the explanation, how beautifully it is mentioned here. So if you see Pitt's India Act 1784 was passed by the British government. It has the provision to establish the Board of Control to keep a check on military, civil and revenue affair of the company. So now there are more administrative function here. Okay, Charter Act 1813 deprived the monopoly of trade in India for the East India Company except for tea and trade with China. Commercially or commercial activity of company was ended by Charter Act, means the monopoly was ended by 1813, and and there is a Charter Act 1833 that recognized the Governor General of Bengal would be the Governor General of India. And students, 1861 it introduced the concept of decentralization by restoring the legislative power of Bombay and Madras provinces. I hope you understand the concept. And see, we already discussed that this is topic 1. In the chapter 1 there is a 2 important topic. One, constitutional development before 1858 and constitutional development after 1858. So tomorrow we will meet for the same time to continue this series, constitutional development of India. But one very important thing, students, for the better score and for selection you required the perfect guidance and the good books. So here Arihant providing you the prelims possible. And students, here you see there are lots of books in this series like Indian history, a very chapter wise, a very systematic data you will get here. Geography, India including world also, Indian polity, Indian economy, as well as general science. So there is some features of this book. We already discussed that this is 100% error free. You will get each and every question's detailed explanation, as well as you will get a knowledge plus with a typical question and previous year bullets, means what you studied in the form of question, this will be in bullets also, that will help you in the revision, as well as free package chapter test also. So this is all about the today's session, students. I'm bringing this session every day at 9 p.m. So stay tuned with this session, and the things is going in a very systematic format. Okay, thank you so much for joining and listening me. Students, if you feel any doubt and difficulties, I'm always open for you. Thank you so much. Please give your feedback in the comment box.